Well, ladies and gentlemen, I was really hoping that America would have bombed Iran by now, but still no bombing, so I don't know. Any case, I suppose let's just turn on to other news while we wait Trump to do something. Let us not forget that Trump actually said that if people die in Iran, he would bomb it and he would come to the aid of the Iranian people. The problem is, people are dying. Like, this is a genuine thing. And the current estimations inside of Iran is that up to 15,000 people have been gunned down by the regime. It's quite hard to tell actually what's going on because Iran suspended the internet. And because they suspended the internet, people can't issue social media posts to notify the rest of the world as to how terrible the regime has got. But there are some people being able to get the word out. Now, Trump has actually asked Elon Musk to provide Starlink to Iran so that they can communicate with the rest of the world as to what the regime's doing, but nothing yet. So, yeah, I mean, this is going by every single day, and some are starting to warn that the opportunity to act against the regime may be slipping away.
Well, we're gonna be talking about that. We may get the internet going if that's possible. We may speak to Elon because, as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company, so we may speak to Elon Musk. And in fact, I'm going to call him as soon as I'm finished with you.
In any case, let's get on to the rest of the news. But before we do, can I yet again remind you, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and help me grow to 200,000 subscribers. 200,000 subscribers would be swell. Please help me make that a reality. Any case, let's turn our attention first, well, to Trump and Venezuela, because we've already talked about Trump. As you know, Donald Trump launched a direct U.S. military operation in Venezuela, which resulted in the capture of Nicholas Maduro and his wife, who were transferred to the United States to face drug-related charges. Trump is just a master troller. I mean, honestly, you couldn't make this stuff up if you tried, because in a viral Truth Social posting of Trump's today, he gave a picture, and in his picture, it's like a fake wiki-style picture. So for those of you, before you go look, you can go look at wiki. It's not actually on there. It was a fake wiki page. In any case, on this page, he implied that he was the acting president of Venezuela. Now, as I said, it's factually false, but politically rather intentional and actually really funny. Certainly it brought a smile to my face when I saw it. Now, this also comes at a time when they're discussing what may potentially occur with Cuba. And this is discussing how Marco Rubio may be the new president of Cuba, as if he's going on a colonial campaign and just conquering all of his enemies. In any case, it's important to understand that in Venezuela, they do have a new government, and the new government has been installed and is being led by Delcy Rodriguez, who is actually a regime insider. So somebody asked me this morning what I actually thought about the whole Venezuelan scenario, and I must reiterate that it's kind of like saying, well, Ramaphosa got arrested, but the ANC is still in government. So no real change is actually going to happen. You still got the same regime stooges in charge, and until they're gone with fresh elections, well, nothing's really going to actually have any form of change. Now, opposition figures are all condemning this as regime recycling and not as liberation, for the exact reasons that I said right now. Now, in terms of the US military action, all the legal experts are all chiming in to denounce the US. The first is they're suggesting that the UN Security Council had not given the US a mandate to launch a military operation, as if there was no self-defense justification, and they suggested that this sets a precedent for regime change by force. But as you know, Trump framed the entire invasion. I mean, it's funny how the media are now viewing this as an invasion, despite no boots to the ground, and literally just a capture of a figurehead. In any case, Trump still says that it wasn't an invasion, it was a war on drugs and cartels. But as you can imagine, critics are arguing that this is inconsistent and selectively applied, and why haven't you gone after Mexico? Because anything that Trump does at this point in time must be terrible, because let us not forget, Orange Man bad. Now, we all know, and many analysts are saying that the real motive was oil. Yes, we all know it was oil. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserve on the planet. And the US has reportedly already explored oil for stability arrangements with Venezuela. Yes, we know it's about oil. So what? Many individuals in Venezuela are openly saying that they are very happy with what's gone on. And you can actually watch one individual say that right here.
So you probably saw some Democrats, including the new mayor of New York, Zoran Mamdani, literally declare that what Trump did on Saturday morning was illegal. What do you think of that?
Again, if people don't live through it, they won't know how desperate us Venezuelans are for a change. I know they're talking about Trump only wanting the oil, but everybody's there for the oil. Russia, Iran, everybody is there for the oil already, China. So if Trump needs the oil to give us freedom, then that's a price we're willing to pay just so that we have our freedom and make a change. In 26 years, nobody has done anything for our country except for Trump. So if that's a price that he's the only one that has made an action on it, and he's the only one that has delivered his promise. So if that's the price we need to pay for it, then that's okay. Venezuela has a lot of other resources. It's not just oil. We have minerals. We have so many other things that once our country is better, then we, as Maria Corina always say, we will be an amazing country. We just need that change and somebody to help us for it.
But you see, curiously, it always appears to be the people furthest away from a specific action that seem to promote it the most. Individuals living in New York all talking about socialism, even though they nowhere near socialism. You got individuals living in a Western democracy saying Islam, even though they're nowhere near it. It's always the people furthest away from the very consequences of what they seem to be promoting that are the loudest. In any case, there's already hints that supposedly America will be acting next against Cuba. As you know, there are also mentions around Greenland and Colombia, but I mean, at the end of the day, those two issues, I think, are just Trump being Trump. In any case, his message to the world is that your sovereignty is conditional. Power, not law, now decides outcomes. And to this degree, that was always the case. And many countries all went to the UN to moan and moan and moan as if somehow the UN was going to protect them from the rules of nature. Now, all this is happening at the same time that South Africa is doing naval drills in Simonstown, which involves China, Russia, and Iran. And very amusingly, the entire exercise is being branded as Will for Peace. Yes, that's what they actually called it. It's a will for peace. With Russia is actively engaged in a war with Ukraine and Iran actively killing its own citizens. Funny how that happens. But in any case, the entire maneuver does bring diplomatic risk. As you know, Iran is under sanctions and Iran is violently suppressing internal protests, with Trump firmly saying that he will take action against Iran in the coming days. Now, if you watched my video from Friday, you'll know that South Africa tried to persuade Iran to downgrade its participation to observer status only, because they don't want to actually have a fallout with the US. But in typical fashion, there's a reason for this, because they didn't actually consider that Iran might fall whilst doing the exercises. And it's one of those unintended consequences of aligning yourselves with the world's villains. When you jump in bed with them, when something changes, which inevitably does, it tars you with the same brush as the very people you want to be friends with. Remember, birds of a feather flock together? Well, this is exactly how South Africa is being seen. Now, all this is happening at the same time that Congress is debating an AGOA extension. There is a bill going through Congress right now to extend or renew AGOA for a 3-year period. But South Africa's eligibility is not guaranteed. Many US officials are saying South Africa is a unique problem. And for that unique problem, it needs a unique solution, which, as you'll know, involves sanctioning the ANC directly in terms of its members that are very good members that could potentially be members that have been fingered in the Zondo commissions. And there are also calls for South Africa's bilateral trade agreements with the US to be placed under review, with the US applying even greater tariffs than they already have. Now, South Africa appears to be choosing ideological alignment over economic survival, because it keeps saying that it's going to side with all the world's despots. It very clearly seems to want to promote or protect the world's despots, in terms of its political position, why, nobody can know. In fact, all you can really tell is that the ANC leadership seems to think that the Cold War of global South solidarity terms are still a reality. The Cold War has been over for a very long time, but nobody seems to have actually told this to the ANC. The ANC still thinks that their failed allies are now their allies, but they're not in reality. These individuals are fighting for their own survival. Now, where you can see this most is actually in the response from the International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola, who condemned the U.S. actions in Venezuela as a violation of international law. But I must remind you that the people in Venezuela are ecstatic that this is occurring. They want their freedom. Why are we promoting the enslavement of the people to a socialist government? In any case, Ronald Lamola also defended South Africa's military drills as routine and sovereign, saying that they can be friends and do drills with whoever they want, because superpower unilateralism isn't really a thing, according to them. That basically means that the power of one isn't a thing. We should have this multilateralism. We should have this collective, this global communism. And everybody's scared because Trump's power threatens to turn the entire UN Charter to ashes, because people are realizing the collective is fraught. The majority of the collective are commie bastards, and they don't want to be friends with them. I don't see that as being a negative thing. I don't want to be friends with communists either. In fact, I would very much like to see the commies footsack out the country, because it's the commies that have destroyed this land and every other one they've ever been in. In any case, this is all leading to Durko delaying accepting the credentials of the new US appointed ambassador, because he's scary. He's not really going to play nice for South Africa. And so suspending his credentials is a good... I mean, this is stupid. The reality check is that South Africa condemns the US power, but it depends heavily on Western trade for everything. And the reality is that at some point in time, the South African government could get a very, very big hiding from Donald Trump, and we're all waiting for it. All for nothing more than loyalties to Cold War, Global South solidarity bull rubbish. The world's not stuck in the 1980s anymore. But for some reason, nobody seems to have told the ANC this. Now, you know where you can see this the most is actually at home with the ANC and its allies, the South African Communist Party, who have now said that they will be contesting the 2026 local elections independently. And this has landed up with an open confrontation with the ANC directly. The SACP disrupted Ramaphosa at a memorial event and led forms of public chanting against the president, which the president viewed as humiliating. Now, the ANC's response to this is that they have now banned the dual membership rule, so you can no longer just say, well, I'm a member of the ANC if I'm a member of the SACP. And they've threatened expulsions of the SACP, and we all want to see this happen. The faster this can happen, it's just another nail in the ANC's coffins. We want to see the ANC die. It must die. For the Republic to survive, the ANC must die. I will keep saying that till I get blue in the face. Now, the SACP frames their entire actions against the ANC as defending the working class, because again, stuck in the 1980s with Soviet rhetoric. But the Trump-Partis alliance is effectively functionally dead. ANC is losing control over its own ideological base. All of the ideologues that the ANC had partnered with are all deserting it, because the ANC hasn't actually done anything positive for the Republic, and it's difficult for them to be involved with many of these individuals, knowing full well that you're going to be tarred with the very same stigma that the ANC has. I mean, I wouldn't want to be involved in that either. Now, unfortunately, this does mean that a lot of individuals like myself go online and we tell you what's going on in South Africa. Well, this is exemplified most in what's happened with AfriForum Solidarity, because those individuals have gone all over the world to talk about the plight of South Africa. Well, to show you just how much the South African government is worried about everything they're saying and the potential ire that they could be raising on an international level, Ramaphosa has signaled possible action against groups lobbying in the US, and he claims that they're undermining South Africa's sovereignty. Now, obviously, this is specifically due to AfriForum Solidarity, and it's all following the Afrikaner refugee program and obviously the Trump's tariffs. Now, Ramaphosa has asked the Hawks to investigate high treason complaints against these organizations, And groups are pushing back, calling the accusations baseless and authoritarian, and they're arguing that lobbying is political speech and not treason. But this isn't really something that they say, that's international law. But Ramaphosa at the moment looks like a tit, so he just wants to blame everybody else. Now, legal experts are divided. Some say that misleading foreign lobbying could qualify as treason. Obviously, when I say some, I mean the ones that all want to somehow do exactly what the ANC's told them to do. They want a conclusion, they somehow try to justify it. And others just say that it's an intimidation tactic. What they're trying to do is stop people from talking with the threat of criminalization. So this is state power being used to criminalize dissent from the very people that don't like what Ramaphosa is doing. Well, that's what despots do. So yes, it all makes sense that the ANC continues to align with the world's despots when it itself is a despot in waiting. Out of a very final story, I'm not really sure if this is a story, this is actually more a viral social media post that's been going around, because it's basically been crystallizing public anger over BEE. Now, if you watched my video from yesterday, you'll recall that Gwyneth Matasha says that if you question BEE, well, that in itself is white supremacy. Now, in this post, the question was asked of who defines previously disadvantaged, because the criticism is that billionaire elites still qualify whilst ordinary South Africans do not. And that ultimately BEE is just becoming elite recycling and not empowerment. But this is exactly what we all seem to think. Have a watch the video yourself.
About Cyril and
No,
Patrice
bro.
still qualify as previously disadvantaged.
Thank you. How in the fuck? They are billionaires.
Yeah.
And it's no shade to the time as well done. Fucking you on, bro. I would have taken the same deal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't now come and tell us how amazing BEE is when you yourself have become a billionaire by never building a fucking thing.
Yeah.
And like I've said before, clearly, all of our ministers and all of our leaders and all of our high-ranking politicians and their friends, these are the best business people to ever fucking live, because certain people go from having criminal records and being arrested for fraud to qualifying for 300 million rand tenders in the health sector. What the fuck? How? You don't come from the health sector. What have you ever done in the health sector? It doesn't make sense. But I'm not using that. I'm using that example because it's been spoken about mostly in the media over the recent months. So I'm sure people will remember it. But you could copy and paste the exact same thing happening in every industry, every sector that is related to government. And government is the biggest employer. Government is the biggest...
It's got the biggest budget.
It's got the biggest budget, and it's also got the biggest scope of work. There's plenty of work to do in government.
All types of work.
Right.
As I say, there is this growing sentiment that nobody likes BEE. We all see BEE exactly for what it is. It is entrenching inequality and enriching ANC cadres. We all know this to be true. The only individuals that don't want to see it go are the very individuals benefiting from it. But I've said numerous times, you'll never get chickens to vote KFC. And that's exactly what we're asking the ANC to do when we ask them to get rid of BEE. They're not going to do it. At least that's my opinions. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And until next time, bye.